everybody, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. I know we come a time or two a year to talk about market stats, and it's been a really interesting summer. So I have a lot to show you in terms of what's going on in the marketplace. Going to be focusing on Santa Clara County, but of course, if there's ever a need for doing work over the hill in Santa Cruz or doing work in San Mateo County, that is great too. We can talk. There's definitely stats and information for you from Aculist, but I'm going to get started here. I'll have to change the date. It is not September at all. I can't believe it. It's mid-October. I can't believe how fast
the screen looks great.
Yeah, otherwise.
Isn't that slight calendar error?
They're being in the wrong month. And so trust me, the date is wrong, but the date is not. Today we'll talk about Santa Clara County. So, you can get overwhelmed by data. I think people do, and I get told all the time, like, what does this really all mean for me? So we've been trying to challenge ourselves in coming up with a few key points that you can think about every month, right? There's always a little bit of a difference in terms of where the market is headed. If you look at the most recent stats, why is that different? We're trying to point out where this information comes from and why it's important. And so, these are my three main things. Oh, I was just about to say, anybody who has any questions, come off mute. This is a great group here that we have. So any interactivity would be great. I know Mark's going to watch the chat, Mark and Alicia. So, if anybody has a question or wants me to cover something, or if I get really excited and go too fast, let me know. But these are the three things that are happening right now in Santa Clara County, right? So we have September data. We're halfway through October. And we know that generally we're seeing trend up. Prices are trending up. But the data is really mixed, and we'll talk about that because it depends on what city you're looking at. So if you're, working the north part of the county, it's very different than the south part of the county, and so forth. We'll talk about that by looking at some city data coming up. New listings, increase inventory as well, and that's an unusual thing for this time of year. Oh,
RAM the 894 की मैंने नहीं पता हूँ जाके अपने
maybe we can mute that person. Or everybody take a minute, make sure they're on mute. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a question to me. So just double checking there. Okay. And then the last part is that days on market and sale to list are suggesting that the market continues to be, maybe Jody. The market competition is often dictated by two or three different terms. DOM and sale to list price ratios are those two of several factors suggesting competition. So let's get into it. Let's see how this goes. We'll start off with prices trending up. And so what I was talking about is this is a long-term graph. So we're looking back to January of 2020, so 2.5 years. Well, actually almost 3.5 years, more than 3.5 years. And we can see the median sale price in Santa Clara County went up to 1.84. So that's a month over month, very marginal increase month over month. It's about 1%, but year over year, we're looking at about 11.5% increase. And so that's a big deal. That means prices are about 12% higher than they were a year ago at this time. We know the market's really different. And we know that since the beginning of the year, there's been a pretty steady increase, right? A couple of months where there's been a decrease, but in general, 26%, right? So prices are 26% higher than they were to end the year. And that's really great news for your sellers. The thing is that that's put a lot of pressure on your buyers, and because of the interest rates, it means that you can purchase, your purchasing power went down. And so these are pretty high numbers. This is the high point number for the year so far, which is pretty unusual. It's happened before. September is not necessarily, if you look back over the last 4 or 5 years, you can see that the median price high.
You
guys could call Suchrit. Can you mute yourself, please? Suchrit, Shima, please mute yourself.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, my hero. You're my hero. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Yay, it worked. Okay. So so where was I? So when you look by not by month, right? And this is what's really important. And I know that there's a lot of confusion out there on the marketplace because I have neighbors and people telling me like, "Hey, what's going on?" Because I've heard this is a terrible market and it's so bad. And I'm like, "Well, it really depends on what side of the transaction and when you purchased your home and what you're looking for." Because in Santa Clara County, you can see if you look at the last 5 years by month, that's what this graph does, right? It goes January to December. It's last 5 years by month. You can see here that July, as of June, the median price was the same as it had been a year ago. And then you see July, August, and September have been higher than the price 5 years. So these are the way you could put that is July, August, and September have had the highest median price point that they've had in the last 5 years. And that probably means ever because we've seen prices really increase over those years. And so September is the best September by a long shot that we've had. And so this is, when your sellers are on the fence thinking, oh gosh, is this a bad time to list my home? The lack of competition has put upward pressure on prices. And therefore, these are some really, really high prices. So you can see April of 2022 was the highest price in Santa Clara County ever, really getting close to that $2 million mark. But this is September, not far off of that 100 and some thousand. So, there's really a lot of value in properties. The other way to look at it is to look by city. And I know that this is most important because the county gives you a general trend and the median is just the middle point of the market, half under, half over. And so what really is helpful is when you look at cities, even zip codes or areas. But the point is that if you look at this September compared to last September, you can see that there's a lot of price increase in terms of different cities in Santa Clara County. So you can see it as high as 19% in Sunnyvale, meaning prices are 19% higher this September than last September, all the way down to Los Gatos in the 2% range. And that's, looking at a very wide look at that difference in between, the peninsula, South Bay, depends on where you are. The biggest negative change in September was San Martin, but you got to be really careful because I think it's like 1 or 2 sales. You've always got to be really careful with San Martin. Very few sales, but Morgan Hill, Monte Sereno, and Palo Alto were lower, but in the single-digit percentage, meaning the prices were higher a year ago in September in these places. But again, very small percentage change, meaning that the market's pretty much keeping up with where it has been over the past few months. So that was single family. Common interest. So these are the same set of graphs, but we'll look at common interest, a really important class here in Santa Clara County. And you can see here that it's definitely been more volatile. So that's a month over month increase of about 8%. And it's a year over year increase of about 12%. So prices are about 12% higher than they were a year ago. And since the end of the year, it's been about 18%, right? So single family homes was more about 26%, but we've seen recovery in both markets. And there's a strong demand for both markets because you can see that in the price. And so while it's been a little bit, of a wild swing, right, that $1 million 50 that we saw in this late spring and up until now. So it's really tough on your buyers. This is really tough for your buyers or even your sellers to expect, to set their expectations. But the point is, like the single family market, since about June, we've seen those median prices be higher than any relative month in the last 5 years, meaning if you compare June to the last 5 Junes, July or August, and now September, man, look at that delta, right? Meaning this is a really great month in terms of if you were on the market and you sold your home, the median price point was pretty high. And so you can see that even as we transition to city data, where we see, wow, look at that. That median sale price was a lot higher. And in some places, Sunnyvale and Milpitas, the same, meaning that it was the same about last year. The 2 decreases were Saratoga and Los Altos. So in Los Altos, interesting, you don't tend to have a large amount of volume in terms of common interest condos and townhomes, but definitely, and even Saratoga, right? Although I've seen some of those new developments and things coming in. Pretty exciting to see some of those luxury condo complexes coming up. But anyway, so this is that's the pricing. So I want to stop here and talk to and just kind of stop for a second. I don't know if there was any comments on that or any questions that I could answer on the median price point, because that was the city and the county look at those.
I'm not seeing any, Michelle, but you know that line graph you just showed for median sale price single family homes, or I guess it was all for all families. Really, you know, there's that one. Yeah. Comments to me.
No, definitely not a combination. Aculist does
Yeah.
not combine data.
So it's
okay.
residential.
Mhm.
But you know, this slide in itself, you know, when you're talking with your sellers, right, you're seeing a better performance than in the last, you know, over the last 5 years happening this year. But for the buyers, it's that discussion of don't wait for the price to go down, right? Though if you're betting on the price is going to drop dramatically, it's certainly not showing that right now.
Well, yeah, and we don't know that. I mean, traditionally, there's a seasonal element to prices. And so, yes, it would likely, or like historically, prices have gone down late into the year. It's just that in Santa Clara County, sometimes September and October could be the most fruitful month for your sellers, right? Meaning higher prices than you might see during the summer, for example. And so there's this, I call it the fall bounce, and we've seen it most of the last few years. The pandemic year was odd because, you know, demand got pushed out. And so where we didn't sell as much in April and May, we sold more later in the year. But, you know, prices could go down. They usually do at the end of the year. You can see that by this graph. So you can predict that every year except for 2021,
On
we
the
saw a
seasonal
decrease.
side, right?
It's a seasonal change, right? For sure. But I mean, even with a seasonal change, let's say it goes down 10, 12%, you would still be higher than you have been in prior years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just trying to dispel the bad market. There's no bad market. It depends on what side of the transaction you're on. It depends on what your circumstances are. But as far as prices go, these are pretty high prices, meaning sustained value in Santa Clara County, right? It's hard to think that there's a bad like investing in properties here would be a bad move, right? That's what I'm trying to dispel. So yeah, no, thanks for that. If you have any questions, put them in the chat or come off mute, raise your hand. I'm happy to engage or answer any questions. For now, I'll move on to closed sales because part of the confusion in the marketplace is that, you know, there's a lot of media attention on the real estate markets, and it keeps saying it's really bad. And first, we got to stay away a little bit from national coverage because the Bay Area has a really different set of circumstances. But, you know, a lot of times they're talking about demand and supply, and they're talking about closed sales and new listings, right? And so we really just have not closed as many properties as we have in prior years. And so September ended at 601. You know, it's pretty seasonal down. If you look, and this is why I like bringing several years worth of data, because you could say, well, is this typical, Michelle? Well, you can see it. Yeah, you know, it really is. Sometimes it's a little bit even, sometimes it's a little bit up, but generally you're not going to see a whole bunch more closed sales in September than you would in August. The real change to that, right, was 2020, and you can see that there on the graph. Like September with 1,000, it was the second highest or third highest month that year of number of closed sales, but that was the pandemic. In general, we see this trend down, but I think the point is that if you look at the right hand side of the graph, everything over from 2023-01, which is January, it's just very few closed sales every month, right? So every month has been a lot lower than prior months. There have been some really low transaction levels all over the Bay Area. This is not unique to Santa Clara County, but we just haven't seen a lot of year-over-year positive, right? So we haven't seen where any one month in any one city has been supremely larger than the other. We can see here that Los Altos Hills and Cupertino had more single-family homes this September than last. But in general, this is kind of what we've been dealing with all year, right? Where there's fewer sales, whether it's July or May or February, fewer sales than the prior year. That means we just didn't transact anymore than we did a year ago, but that doesn't necessarily mean no what that did to the price, right? Prices still stayed relatively high. They're kind of independent. They influence each other, but they aren't directly influencing. Sorry, they aren't directly related, meaning that prices can stay relatively high even if the number of closed sales goes low, because it usually means there's a supply problem, right? That's what keeps prices high. So, you know, single family, or even if you look at common interest over the last month, that actually decreased as well, but that's not unusual. We would expect that this time of year. There were a couple markets, Morgan Hill and Los Gatos, where there were more single family homes, common interest homes sold this September than last September. And and the mate I switched into Spanish there. The majority of cities is lower, right? So we were not surprised by that. In fact, does anybody like the Aculist Weekly? We can see here that the Aculist Weekly, this is through 9:30, but it's up through 10:14 now. So there's 2 new ones that were released this morning. And you can see here that we're trending lower. So Santa Clara County is definitely trending lower than it has been for the past couple of years. In most weeks, there was a while there in the late summertime where we was like, whoa, look at that. We're trending with 2022. But in general, we know. And the thing about it is that it can be up to 200 and 250 properties per week. That's a lot of transactions we're missing out on, right? There just has not been as many people coming onto the marketplace because of interest rates and the fact that if you sell something, you got to buy something. And so it's been a tough year in terms of transactions for sure. So I don't think any of us were very surprised by the fact that that closed sales were so low. It's that time of year, and it's been generally low all year. So that goes into pricing, right? That's pricing and supply, or some different aspects of how do you look at mixed data like that, where the transactions are low but the prices are higher. So that was point 1. So we kind of been through that. Don't see any chat or any questions, so I'm going to keep rolling on to point 2, which is more focused on what's coming up in the future. So prices and closed sales are backward-looking data that happened already, right? The median price was, $1.4 million a month ago. In September. We're now in October. And so what happens this month largely depends on what's available in the marketplace. And so that is new listings, right? So what's happening is that we saw an increase in several of our Bay Area cities. In Santa Clara County, single family, we saw a little bit of a decrease. It was about 9% month over month. That's, again, not unusual. Look at those last few months. The only time it was unusual is 2020. But this is a time of year where we definitely, see new listings decrease a little bit as we go into the holiday season and the end of the year. But there was an increase in several key cities, right? So of El Viso and Stanford, there weren't new listings last year. That's why there's no percentage change. It says not applicable. But we saw some, pretty significant gains. Look at Saratoga, right? If you were looking in Saratoga, there's a pretty significant change there. Morgan Hill. That's more choice. So was it enough to make the price go down? Will it be enough to make prices go down? We'll have to see, because we won't know until the month close. But in general, I kind of use San Jose as a benchmark. I like to use San Jose as benchmark. So there's 18% lower number of new listings, meaning fewer for your buyers to choose from. It's good for your sellers, though, because it's less competition. So 2 sides of the transaction. The thing about it is, the decreased new listings, is it enough, right? Is it enough to get buyers to sit on the sideline, say, hey, there's not enough for me to see here? Or is it just fewer, dollars changing fewer goods? So chasing fewer goods, I should say. So does it drive up that price? And that's what happens when there's less to choose from. So we'll have to see what's been happening for the majority part of this year. It's just been that there's less to choose from, so the prices go higher. And that's why we're seeing that. So we'll have to see what happens. New listings did increase in September in common interest, though. So your condos and townhomes, look at that. It's the highest number of new listings that we've had since July of last year. So, that's big. If you have buyers that are out in the market, this is good news. There's a little bit more choice. For your sellers, you think to yourself, well, is 391, an increase of 2% high enough to change prices? We'll have to see. But, in general, I was kind of shocked by this. There's common interest in Stanford, California. That's because Stanford, remember, has its own city, is its own city. It has its own, post office and what have you. But we'll ignore that one. But the rest of them, you can see here that that's a decent number of new listing increases, right? Comparing this year to last year. And again, I use San Jose as a benchmark. So, that's up 6%. Now, this is when Mark would normally come in with his but Michelle, we don't get new builds, right? And that's where this is. He wasn't paying attention. So I'll do it for
I know
him.
you're going to remember because I mention it all the time. I didn't want to, get into your thing.
My flow.
Carry
Yeah,
on.
we don't have new listings. I'm sorry, new builds. New builds will not be figured in. And so every time I see some of those new properties, particularly affects like Hollister down in San Benito County, where there's just tons of building going on. I'm seeing, new properties and new plans show up, and, all over Santa Clara County, and those will not be included here. And the reason it's more important in common interest is because some of those larger buildings that are selling and having like that all of off 17, right? We know that a bunch of common interest properties are being sold right there by Good Samaritan Hospital. And so, those won't be figured in. And so you really have to do a little bit more work. If they're not listed on the MLS, we don't get them in the data. And so therefore you might think, hey, actually, I think this number's a little larger, right? So for some of these cities, this new listings number is probably larger, and it probably has been for several months or even since the beginning of the year, because we don't get those new builds. So you definitely want to advise your clients on that, because it won't figure into these numbers, and it won't make the change as great as it really is, because there's actually more to choose from, right? And so we see that in Los Gatos there. So maybe that number is not negative, perhaps it is positive. So, definitely something to keep in mind as we look at it, because inventory is the main driver for price. So what's on the market, what's available on the market, and we are seeing that climb up. It's the highest it's been since October of last year, and so it's that higher number, meaning at the end of the month, 708 properties available. And that's compared to the last day of every month prior. And so, yeah, we're seeing that increase, that inventory creep up, and we'll see what that does to prices. But in general, look at that. Alviso doubled its inventory. Those little markets make me laugh, because that makes a big difference in Alviso, right? But it's when you compare that to like a San Jose, it's kind of funny. The rest of the cities here, we saw double-digit inventory changes, but in general, it's still very low. And so you're like, hey, wait a minute, you just said it's high. I said it's higher than it has been in a year, but relatively still very low. So that's where you see that keeps those prices up high. That's in the single family market. The inventory and common interest also increased, and that was a pretty substantial. It's 22%, well, roughly 21%, but between 21 and 22% increase. And so that means more available at the end of the month. And we'll see. I mean, the highest we've seen since October of last year. Look at these markets behaving similarly, making my job easier, because it's the same story in both single family and common interest classes. A little bit of different cities, right? You can see the differences in the common interest cities versus the single family. But yeah, some gains, some at zero, like Palo Alto, the exact same number of the exact same inventory number as a year ago. But generally, again, just like single family, we're seeing that decrease. And so not unusual, but very depressed on that inventory all year long. And so that's something that we will definitely have in mind as we move forward. So that's principle 2. I'm going to stop, draw breath.
Yeah, draw a breath,
Dave,
take a sip.
any questions? But it's important, right? Because we were just at a big broker meeting this morning, Mark, and it was like, I didn't know if I should cover closed sales. And it was like, no, closed sales is really important. It gives you a snapshot of what took place in the market a year ago, and new listings is critical, because you have to know what's available now and what that might do to prices. And prices, we all have to know. And so we're just kind of rolling through these very critical pieces. We have 2 left to go. And that's talking to the competitiveness of the market, right? So we know we saw offer dates come back into play. We know anecdotally that there's multiple offer situations. There's lots of different things telling us that there's still a lot of competition in the market now. Rising interest rates and the difficulties in securing home loans and things of that nature will definitely bring that down. But there's a couple of signals so far, at least in September, that suggest the market continues to be competitive. So one of those is days on market. Now, days on market, this is a median, so it's just the middle. We get rid of all the outliers on the top and all of the outliers on the bottom to kind of bring you a number. and it's been 8. So 2023, I feel like, what was that kid television program where it was like the number of the day? I think it was Sesame Street,
Sesame
right?
Street.
Yeah, yeah. It
Today's
was a
number
classic.
is.
A classic. Today, the number of the day is 8. And so it's really been that for a long time. I don't think so much, people want to sometimes talk about DOM and it's like, well, it's flawed or this or that. The thing about DOM is that it's really a change that you're interested in, right? Is it really important that it's 8 days or 12 days or 10 days? Like, not so much. I think the most important part is whether it's going up or down. And that's what's really important, because it tells you a lot about what's happening in the market. And so we put together this chart for you guys for this month particularly. This is a special chart showing days on market, DOM, and median sale price. And what you're seeing here is that in September, look at that, look at median DOM is so low. I mean, whether you plot median price against inventory, whether you plot it against sale to list, like there's a clear increase in demand in Santa Clara County. You can see it's been building since the beginning of the year, but you can show people, right, that when DOM goes up, median prices tend to go down, right? That's, they work together. This is very related. And so we see a lot of market tightening. It was faster compared to a year ago. So Milpitas, Palo Alto, same days on market as a year ago. All the other cities lower, meaning less time to choose. So now you're like, wow, this is tough. This is a tough sell for my buyers, right? Well, I shouldn't use tough sell. That was confusing. This is a tough message to my buyers. Market's gone up, prices have gone up. You have less time to choose. Luckily, in a lot of places, you have a lot more to choose from. But, it's pretty tight out there. So, your sellers can expect to have the home come on the market, come back off the market, whether they're in single family or even common interest. So this is common interest, and the number of the day is 8 and 9 because that's how it's been all year long. But still, whether you're looking at this common interest or single family, you're like, hey, Michelle, you duped your graph. Like, no, it's a different graph. This has common interest on it. But what happens is they're behaving very similarly. And so there's been more volatility in the price in common interest, but bottom line is that is also very low days on market, very competitive prices in general, even with those bigger swings. So what does that mean? Means that Campbell slowed down quite a bit in that common interest space. Cupertino stayed the same. And then like the single family market, generally we're seeing a lot of tightening, right? Gilroy there not a big common interest market. But like Morgan Hill, quite a few new common interest builds out there. And I don't get that new build data. So really keep those in mind. We won't get them until they resell. So that's that. The biggest, I think, one of the most important parts of competition is sale to list price ratio. So this is what people should expect to pay under or over ask. It's generally over ask in Santa Clara County. This is the single family. And it's hovered at 105 and 106% for the last 4 or 5 months. That means that your buyers would expect to pay about 5% over ask. So whatever the ask price is, you would, increase that by 5% to get what it ultimately sells for. The important part of this graph is that you can't see it. I don't have a slide for it, but we know that price decreases have decreased. There are fewer price decreases this year by a long shot. So people ask me all the time, hey, is it like price decrease, price decrease? Oh, and then it gets 100% of list, gets reported as 100% of list. No. We aren't seeing nearly as many price decreases as we have, whether you look September to September, whether you look year to date. When you compare this to last year, we're very much back to normal and kind of, your expected number of price decreases. There's always the aggressive sellers that want to go out there, ultimately have to reduce the price in any market. And so we're kind of seeing that number. We're not seeing a very huge number, which is what we saw last year at this time. I was like, hey guys, sale to list price is 100%, but note that the number of price decreases is up by 60%. Like I think San Jose was up by 60% at one point. So that's not happening right now. I would consider these pretty true, accurate reflection of what's happening in the marketplace. And you can see here only Gilroy under 100% in the single family market. And some of these are pretty serious year-over-year gains. So you're in the Cupertino from this chart, right? From this table, you'd say you pay 13% more over list than you were paying a year ago, and prices are generally higher. So that's a double whammy for your buyers. Really good news for your sellers, though. And only a couple of cities, Monte Sereno and Palo Alto, were lower than a year ago, and not by much, right? So we didn't see that decrease too much. These last set of graphs show you the common interest. So same concept, sale to list price ratio, hovering 103, 104 over the past 6 months, higher than we've seen in a long time, since June of last year. So it's been very consistent. Price reductions are pretty low. And you can see in the case of common interest, all over 100%. All higher than last year, with the exception of Palo Alto, which I'll show you here in a second. But that means your buyers are really having to pay for that, right? Be competitive, be in the marketplace, and that's because, again, fewer choices. So Palo Alto is a head scratcher. When all the rest of the county was down, it was up, and now all the rest of the county is up and it's down. Palo Alto is a fun one, but there's been really a lot of volatility in a lot of the common interest markets in the Bay Area. So if you know that, keep your eye on that, and you can advise your clients accordingly. But these are our stats. I mean, this is the market update, as I would put it, for Santa Clara County, showing you not only the month over month changes, but year over year, and then several years worth of data. And so, we have a partner economist, Elliot Eisenberg, and I always encourage you guys to attend his events and to look for his documentation, because it has a lot of other factors included, right? Things we can't talk about. We're the MLS, so we can't give advice. We can't be forward looking, but, we have a partner economist who can talk about, well, interest rate changes have this effect, and nationally or locally, we're seeing these things, affect how your buyers are approaching the market, or how sellers are faring. And so there's a lot to be talked about out there. Interest rates have definitely changed what's happening in the marketplace, but it continues to be strong of prices. We're definitely seeing a weakness in transactions, and that has been the case over the course of last year. So I'll stop sharing here for a second. I have a couple of updates for everybody, but not sure if that's just Elisa putting in a lot of comments, or if there's any questions. I just definitely wanted to look. Oh, Christy, here, I got it, guys. Don't worry. Who was the economist I referred to? Okay, our partner economist is Dr. Elliot Eisenberg, and he is a nationally recognized economist who does work specifically for our MLS. And so we make his write-ups every quarter. So he does a quarterly write-up looking back. We make that available to all of you. And then also we make a podcast out of it. So my colleague Tom and I go try to pull, it's 4 pages of economic splendor. I love it. Most people don't. And so what we try to do is take that document and take 3 points from it and talk about those 3 points in a more conversational kind of tone, so that you can talk to your clients about it, or you don't have to feel overwhelmed by, like, did I just say the word GDP to my clients? It has an effect on the local real estate market, but we try to explain how that works and why it's such a big deal. And so there's a podcast, there's a document that he prepares. And then we have him quarterly. He comes to do a live show, right? So it's called MLS Listings Live. We do it every quarter. Our next one is scheduled for, November, the Thursday before Thanksgiving, if I remember correctly. 17th or something like that. You're on mute, Mark. So join us for those. Keep watch on the homepage for banners and different notices, because he is really entertaining. He makes economics fun, and he answers questions for our subscribers here. So it's an exclusive event. That was a long answer, Christy.
Let's put it this way. He's one of the most fun economists I have ever talked to, listened to, read. He makes economics sort of fun and realistic. Yeah. Really ties it into our local marketplace for us.
Yeah. So I did get I got a question directly just about pricing. And so I'm going to try to answer it because I'm not sure I understand the question. But remember, pricing that I showed. So when we looked at median prices, that's the median, the middle number. So 50% over, 50% under for all of the sold homes for the month. Right. So you can look at it quarterly, you can look at it by month. We like to do month close. So it would be, for example, all of the sales in September, what is the very middle number? And we do that to determine the trend. So if you do that for all the months, then you will see the middle number of all closed sales. And that's going to be also the basis for the sale to list price ratio as well.
And sales to list price ratio, Michelle, is off original price, or we always get this question, original price or last price?
Dave, original
Dave.
list or last list? You
Last
do it.
list.
Yeah, Dave. There you go.
Gold
Thanks,
star for Dave.
Gold star.
Woo. Last list, meaning people talk about that, and you say, okay, the original list was, you came out on the market at $1 million, and then you reduce the price to $800,000 and you receive $800,000. That would be 100% of list because it was the last list price. And so people are very interested in the original list to sales to list price ratio, right? That's a different calculation. And it is very important. Aculist uses last list, but original list is great. It's in Matrix. You can always find it. And I'll remind everybody, when the market is transitioning down, original list is going to be much more important than when the market is transitioning up, because there's going to be more price decreases when a market is transitioning down than it is. You're not going to see people adjust the list price upward when the market is increasing. You just take a higher price, right? And so that's why that's important. And it's definitely something to consider when the market's in transition, whether seasonal during times of the year, or even just when the market's transitioning. And we know it, like last summer when we said, oh, whoa, this is a very big departure from what's happened earlier in the year. So that is great. So any other questions or anything I can answer?
Michelle, I think a few people have been wondering where they can get the slides. I'm not sure if you've addressed that.
Well, I can send them to Jody for distribution. We're happy to provide them. They're for you. They're your data. We put them together and try to make them helpful. But yeah, I'm happy to share it. I'll probably send it maybe to Jody for distribution. Yep. Or
yeah. So if you send them to me when we send the recording out, I'll make sure to include it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
I think there was one question pertaining to once we're done with your portion, Michelle, I guess to members only, do not show in accepting an offer.
Yeah, Dave, I've got some slides. I got a slide lined up on members only for us, and you've got that expertise from the compliance department. Michelle,
we do have one hand up. Is that a question for Aculist or for MLS?
Question for Aculist. When I wanted to take the slides and put it in the social media, the clarity won't be that much good. Wanted to know, do you use any apps for that?
Oh, using slides in social media? Yeah, so you have to convert them to an image, and you have to right size it and things to make sure that it looks good. There's not much I can do about it because I'm trying to present a lot of data in the format of PowerPoint. Our Aculist reports have a lot of data that are great for sharing for social media. And so what I would do is I would encourage you to go in and use your MLS listings benefit of unlimited market data reports, which are report templates by city, by county, by zip code with your photo and branding. And those is what I would do. I mean, we've shared these on social media and gotten kind of the aspect ratio right, but it's a little bit more work than if you just downloaded a report, for example, and use those.
They're excellent reports, but when I try to copy them and put it in social media, the clarity is not so good.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It always
you
gets too small.
Snippets.
Yeah.
So snippet.
Let me do a screen share because I can help out. I can do that. I can help here, I think.
Show me. Thanks.
So from the old dashboard, which you see here, and I think, there it is. here's the Aculist report, Aculist market reports down in the bottom right corner.
Okay.
And on the new dashboard, which everyone, keep an eye on this dashboard because we're all going there pretty soon. Here's the Aculist report option. So it takes you to the same place. And where it takes you, and Michelle, if you want to sort of give the demo, and I'll drive the car if you want to talk it over, but this is where they can order their Aculist reports.
Well, I would say download. So yeah, if you type in a like, let's start with Los Gatos, maybe.
Ooh.
Let's start Los Gatos. Look at that, threw you off. Basically what you do is enter a geography. I would start with a city, but you can start with a zip code or MLS area. You can even do county, but I think it's great to start with a city. And then you can see that there's 14 reports available for the city of Los Gatos with all data pertaining to Los Gatos, all with your photo and contact information. And there's a ton of data. If you can click on the city stats with summary text, you had to know I was going there.
That's this one, right? I know you.
Yeah.
I
love this report. And
Uh,
this is why, as it's loading, right? So it's going to go
Yeah.
actually grab the most recent data. It's going to grab Mark's photo and contact information. And then it's going to show this chart. The reason I wanted to pull up this chart was you can download it. You can see the yellow button to download. You can add it to favorites so that you don't have to go looking for it again. But the reason I wanted you to pull up this report is because I did get a message about price per square foot decreasing. And I would tell you that it depends on where you are with the price per square foot, because if you look at that average price per square foot for the last 12 months graph, yeah, that one down there. Look at that. The price per square foot is higher than it's been in about, 8 months there.
Oh.
And it's near the top of where it's been over the last year, right? So that's a price per square foot over the past 12 months. If you're not comfortable with the median, if your clients don't love the median, they're not getting it, they don't like it as a trend, and you're really trying to be specific, two things. There's a quartile graph on this telling you that the highest price per square foot being paid in Los Gatos is at the $3 million price point, and it's about $1,431 a square foot. The days on market is the lowest, meaning that is the quickest, right? So if your clients come to you and say, I'm selling a $1.5 million home in Los Gatos and expecting to get $1,500 a square foot, you could say very clearly here, that's not how it's working. The interesting part is that a lot of Santa Clara County, the highest price per square foot is being paid at the top end of the market. And the price per square foot in a lot of these places is as high as it's been over the past year, if not more. So for example, now you'd say, well, if I download this, I could take this report and I could put it on social media in its entirety. Or maybe I would just snip it and take out that average price per square foot graph, talk a little bit about that graph, and then use other parts of this and other social media prompts, right? And so instead of, Mark's laughing at me because I love this report, but it's a lot. Let's be honest, it's a lot of data. So I always recommend snippeting portions of it. For example, that market update changes from last month, that's generated text. You could easily take that and use that as a separate snippet, and it might be a better, visually more appealing, less blurry, solution. So any one of these, Mark, if you can go back out to search, any of these reports can certainly be snippeted. So you could certainly take, back to search. Oh, okay. San Jose, whatever, just put in a city or a zip code, and you can use them in part, in their entirety. They're designed as 8.5 by 11, but this is definitely take a snippet of any portion of these, and it would probably be maybe it's a little easier for you than trying to get that whole one to look quite right on social media.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
One question. Ben is asking what's top, second, third, and bottom means in this report.
Oh, right. So that's quartiles. So basically what it does is this is now San Jose. So the last example we were looking at was Los Gatos. Now Mark has put into the search bar San Jose. So we're looking at stats for San Jose. And when you click on this particular report, which by the way is also available by zip code. So I wouldn't recommend it for the city of San Jose. It's too big. It's too big. It's too diverse. You're not going to get much information. But let's say you're in here for a zip code or something like that. that chart basically creates quartiles. And so what it does is you take the city of San Jose and you create a median number, right? The median price is just the middle. All the closed sales for last month and the city of San Jose are going to go into a median. But what the quartiles do is then take all of those closed sales and break them up further into 4 different like baskets. And it's going to be the top, which is the top end of the luxury end of the market, the second, third, and bottom quartile. And so it's just telling you that, for example, the median sale price or the price per square foot on the left-hand side, you can see September 23 was $968. So your clients are like, oh, I should expect about $968 per square foot. But you're like, oh, not so fast. Again, the top price point to top price per square foot in San Jose is being paid at the top end of the market. This is happening all over Santa Clara County. So be careful with that price per square foot, because there's a very different market at 1,000 square feet than at 800 a square foot. If your client had a $1 million property somewhere in San Jose and expecting 968, you can say, actually, really, when you segment the market, when you break it down, you can see that really at that price point, you should expect about $800 a square foot, or at least based off what we saw in September. And then at the bottom there, again, you can see that price per square foot is pretty high relative to the last year, decreasing marginally in San Jose. What is that? $20, $30 a square foot, maybe. So I love talking quartiles. I will talk quartiles all day long, Alicia.
Christy is asking, can you pull a report from a previous quarter rather than a previous month?
We do have some rolling 90 days. We do have some quarterly reports. The 2 most important quarterly reports are by county. So if you were interested in Santa Clara County or San Mateo County, we have 2 quarterly reports which shove all the numbers. So not just September, but the last quarter. And we also have a report called the bedroom report that shows the number of homes available by bedroom count and the price point at the bedroom count level. And that's rolling 90 days. So it's not a last quarter close. That's going to be based on the last 90 days from the last refresh. So it's probably, 82 days or less. Yeah. So there's a lot of differences. Every single report has a little bit of a report detail when you go to look at it and review it before downloading. And it'll tell you what it's based on. Is it month close? Is it rolling 90 day? Is it quarterly? It's going to tell you all about that report and some points about what makes that report unique or special. And then it's gonna, before you download it, you can check all of that out. But it's a benefit to you guys. It's a couple of clicks in. Like I said, Mark focused on cities, but there's zip codes and MLS area. So lots of different reports. There are 25 different templates for you guys to use anytime. So hopefully you'll take advantage of that.
Perfect. I think we got all the questions.
Got them? Okay. Well, David, let's take a look at that, the question on members only. For those of you that are not overly familiar with the members only situation, let me bring up a little slide here for everyone to see. Members only, and there we go. Members only is MLS listings solution to the mandate that came to us, David, I think in 2020 from NAR, stating clear cooperation.
Right.
Which basically says if you show the home to one person, you must show the home to all people. Right? You couldn't cherry pick, your best friends, right? Whether they're inside your brokerage or maybe it's a couple guys from across the street, that you always show. Because David, that's a fair housing issue, right?
Yeah, and this way, when it gives, so agents, maybe you want to, hey, I want to have that conversation. I want to do a little marketing,
right?
But I'm not ready for full on going syndication. And exposure, right? So this way it gives you that option where I can put it into a do not show or members only show, satisfy the clear cooperation rule, and right. And then when I'm ready, I can move it on, down the line, move it to active and go full syndication, and the nice thing is I get a brand new list date. I get, days on market is 0 when you do that, move it over, and the history, no one will show, you won't see the history that you were in members only. So, it's kind of test the waters as well. Some agents use it to maybe test out the price points and see what kind of traction they're getting. And then, when they move it over, come on with their new list price, and no one will see that you were marketing it in the members only, right? In that the history does not show up. So it's got a lot of advantages. The question I think was specifically is can I accept a preemptive offer and members only do not show?
Oh yeah.
And the answer is no. I mean, you can't solicit and do not show for offers. So what you would do is just merely move it to members only show or full active, and then present that offer or accept that offer.
Gotcha.
That's all you'd have to do. But do not show is exactly that. Hey, you're not showing it, right? You shouldn't be scheduling showings, or you should be in members only show or active. I don't even think we require a photo on the members only do not show, because
the photo rules are a little lax while you're in that, because you are pre-market, right? You're not ready to put it out there. You're not going to Zillow. You're not going to Realtor.com or any of the other sites. You are being shared inside the MLSs. You are being shared. Note that what we call a members only Metrolist in Sacramento, let me go with San Francisco, SFAR, they call it a coming soon.
Right.
It's the same thing. Right. It's just different names for it.
We do have one question. Connie is asking, at what status can you advertise?
Can you advertise? Well, you can advertise in members only show or do not show.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason. So you can go market it and advertise and have that conversation. Because like Mark said, if I go talk to, this person over here, if I go tell Sally, then I also got to tell Bob and everybody else.
That's right.
That's the whole clear cooperation. And so you can put it on there, do not show. And that's what I think a lot of agents do is, hey, I'll put it in do not show or members only show. And now I can go do whatever conversations or marketing, advertisements, and I'm not in violation of the clear cooperation. So I can't get in trouble. And then when I'm ready, maybe I've got renovations or, then I'll move it to active, get the full syndication eventually. And I'll have 0 days on market with a brand new list, price and history is all cleaned up. So it was a solution basically because we didn't come up with, that was NAR.
That was NAR, right? Yeah.
But we had to, obviously come up with a solution when they came up with that. So
right. Now,
perfect. So just to reiterate, they're asking, so I can advertise a do not show as a coming soon?
That's correct.
Perfect.
Yeah. You just cannot show it. Now, if somebody walks by you've got the sign in the front yard and it's got the coming soon rider at the top, right? And somebody comes in and looks at the window, you're still okay, no problems. But the second they step through the front door, David, you are now you could be, you're in members only, but you got to be in the show side of it.
Yeah, then you're gonna have to, so if they come up and you say, oh, heck with it, okay, you can see the property, then at that point, move it to members only show or full active.
Right. Now I moved to members only show, but the only difference there is I can still keep advertising. My days on market is not being shown, but it is being calculated in the background, right? But it's not being shown. I can stay there for as long as I want. There's no timeline. There's no time schedule there. And still there's no syndication. We are not sending it to the Realtor.coms, the Zillows of the world, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it will show up in their searches. So, you'll see it there. Agents can include it in their auto emails. It's going to go get out in the results, right? And you can send them out, right? But exactly, Mark, I think you hit it on the head there. So no syndication is kind of the main thing.
That's the key thing. Yeah.
They're not sending it out.
Absolutely. Put a flyer up, go to the tour meetings. At the tour meetings, you cannot talk about do not shows, but you can talk about shows. Right. So there, just as a warning before you get to the tour meeting. Hey, Grace, I see your hand up. How can we help you? Because I know this was your question.
Yeah, as far as the do not show. So if you're having on do not show and somebody sends you a preemptive offer, which somebody sends you an offer, you have to show it. You have to present it. But they have not seen the property.
Okay.
Because you said that you can't even look at a preemptive offer in do not show.
Yeah, what you would have to do there is obviously you have to present all offers, like you said. So what you would do is you would present that offer, but you would move it to members only show. And because there is, and then do not show,
right?
Right. Yeah. And so move it to members only show then, and then continue on from then.
But if they don't accept the offer, all right. So your house is listed, David. I've listed your house and it's on do not show. Somebody writes me an offer. David, I have an offer for you to present. Do I have to put it in show before I present that offer?
I believe oh, Mark, that's a good.
I don't think so, David. I don't think so.
This is what's confusing. Nobody has seen the property.
Right.
Because you have a contingency that if it after the acceptance, you have 2 days to see the property or whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah, you would.
You said it is. I cannot even present an offer to the seller until I move it to show.
If in fact you're going to show it, but if the buyer's going to, buy it sight unseen, right? There's no contingent.
Well, it would be a contingent. It would be a contingent offer. Contingency to see the property within 2 days after acceptance.
Right. So now you absolutely have to bring it into a show category or a full active category. The second somebody steps over that line,
right? But if you're accepting an offer, I've accepted the offer.
Right.
To me, that means that I need to move it over to active. Whether they've seen the property or not.
If you accept an offer, yes, you would need to move it to active so that you can move it to pending.
Right, contingent pending.
Yeah. Okay, so this came up in our marketing meeting the other day, and it was Carl and me and a couple of other ancient people.
We call you guys veterans, not ancients.
Carl is an ancient, but I am. But anyway, and I'm going, well, I think you can accept an offer and do not show or present the offer and do not show and not have to move it unless the offer is accepted, and then you would have to move it over to the active and then pending.
Or
as long as the buyer has not been in the property.
Correct. As long as the buyer has not physically crossed the threshold of a door and stepped into the home, you can stay and do not show.
Yeah, because somebody had called you guys and they said you cannot even present or accept an offer if it's in members do not show. She may have misunderstood.
Yeah, I think there may be a misunderstanding there, Grace.
Yeah, and so that's why I wanted to clarify, because there were 3 of us that were completely agreeing that you can present and have an offer presented to you as a listing agent. If you don't accept it, you don't have to move it as long as nobody's seen it.
Correct.
If you accept it, then you have to move it to the active to move it to pending.
Right. Now you got to get it to pending.
Get in there. So, okay. I know, it was a little bit confusing after we kept going back and forth and back and forth. I said, well, I'm going to go to this meeting and you guys are going to clarify it for me.
Well, exactly. And I would be, we've got a open forum session coming up the last Tuesday of this month at 2:00. Last Tuesday at 2:00. Robert Bustamante, it's on Halloween, so Robert Bustamante is going to be there. We're going to talk. Rules violations. David, he's got some what he calls the most egregious rules violations, so that ought to be good. But definitely, certainly a time to dive deeper into members only and all the aspects of it, and the discussions that are currently taking place at CAR and at NAR level. To that point.
Well, thank you very much for the clarification.
You bet, Grace. Anytime.
I'm going to reach out to Robert as well, Grace,
Yeah.
just to be on the safe side, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And
Okay, it's the Thursday morning meeting. If you find out something before then, come to the meeting and you
I was
can let
going to
us
say, why don't we volunteer Robert to come to the Thursday morning meeting?
yeah, I think,
Fantastic.
yeah,
I like that. He loves me.
Tell him that Grace says you better come or else.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah, he knows Grace don't fool around. That's for sure.
For some reason, my camera's not working in this format. I don't know
no
why.
worries. No worries, Grace.
But I think most people know who I am.
Good to hear you. Good to hear from you always.
Well, all I can say is that I've been in the business for over 40 years, and MLS has come a long way, baby.
Yeah.
You guys have there was a long period of time where you guys didn't listen to us.
It was a little bumpy.
No, maybe not you, but MLS itself
I hear
did not
you.
listen to us. And now I can say that you guys do listen to us.
Thank you.
And you do the changes that we need. It may not be instantaneous because it does take time. And
it takes time, yeah.
But you do listen, and you're getting a lot more transparent. And if people don't contact you or come to these events,
yep,
they don't know, and they can complain all they want until somebody says, "Did you call?
Yeah.
Did you talk to somebody? Did you go to the MLS Mondays?" I don't want to take all your time, but I just want to send out those kudos to you guys.
Thank you, Grace.
So somebody be there on Thursday.
Yeah,
you got it.
No, it feels good. It feels good to win you and Carl and Joseph over after all these years, because you guys were good about speaking up, and when you didn't like it, you definitely let me know. And so I'm feeling pretty good right now. And one of the things we're looking at now,
you up all the time, Mark.
We've got an engineering department that does a lot of the changes for you. The new dashboard, as an example, the Aculist disclosure tool that's available for you, the showing tool that's available for you as well. But some tools, David, we got to go to the vendor, right? And you've got your vendor spotlight series that works directly with those vendors. So sometimes it takes a little longer to get it through CoreLogic matrix to get a change done.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when it's our engineers. We can just shoot an email over and, hey, get this updated, get this changed. We were dealt with, even for, we had a little trouble with MLS Touch with the login, making everyone log in. We heard that. Thank God that has been solved. So if you weren't aware of that,
it's been solved. I got to go through 2 steps. But
that was nuts.
Yeah.
No, I'm still doing it. I don't know why. What happened?
You should be fixed now.
Well, I was on day before yesterday, and it said put your number in, and then it went to my number and it says log in. So and I'm going,
what you can do, Grace, is you could delete the version of the app you have on your phone right now, and then go back to your Apple store and reinstall it.
This is on my computer.
Oh, on your computer side. Okay. Little different there. We were having login problems on the phone app.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, David, one thing we didn't mention, we were over in members only, the excluded listing, right? And I know we're running over here, but I do want to, just for everybody, the exclusion still exists. You can say, I've got a listing, but I'm not going to let anybody see it, right? I'm going to market it myself to my office. That's allowed. Clear Cooperation says that's allowed. But it is that's it. No advertising.
Once you actually go talk to Bob or Sally, now you got it.
Correct.
Right. That basically says, okay, now you have to list it within 24 hours.
But you can. Of exclusion comes down at that point.
Right. Right. That was part of it.
Another, just really quick, is there are a lot of people that still don't know what to do with MLS. I don't know why they have no idea what you guys offer. And I don't know if they don't use it or they don't read, or that's probably they don't read, but there are a lot of people out there, and then they still don't. There's a lot of people that don't understand, even if you're a seller, starts talking to all their friends, oh, my house is listed with so and so, that's needs to change the activity in the MLS if it's an exclusive listing,
Right.
or whatever. So there's, and it's not that you don't have the education. I don't know what's slipping through, because I'll mention it to somebody and they'll go, oh, no, that's okay. My seller can talk to anybody they want. No, that's not
No,
true.
no.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did a podcast with Robert, actually with Marlene in the compliance department. It was called like the five like most compliance related or whatever the topic was, but and it got actually got the most hits of all the videos. And it tells them the need. Maybe we'll do another compliance, but we'll focus on members only, or another podcast, but focus with Robert, because you're right, Grace. Sometimes we assume as trainers everybody knows it because we have so many videos, we talk about it so much, but we still run into the typical agent who really isn't so sure sometimes about it. So
and David, I think some of the best advice is that that you've given is, when in doubt, just call the compliance department.
Robert or Marlene. Robert especially, he loves to talk about this stuff. So as long as you have about 6 hours of your time, no, just kidding.
You want to pack a lunch.
But Robert, definitely, don't, also the one thing is don't go call afterward, call before. Right. Call and say, hey, I'm not sure what, is this wrong? Is this right? And that way, you'll get the right answer, and before you actually get into any trouble.
Right through it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Michelle, I think I know Jody had to step off. She left us in charge. I don't know if
that was a mistake. I do want to I've been getting a message about Aculist reports, this presentation in non-PDF form. There's apparently a loss of quality in the PDF, but I cannot provide it in PowerPoint format because then it can be manipulated, and it comes from the MLS, and we have to be really careful about that. And so my only choice is my only option is to provide this to Jody or to anyone, to brokers, to agents, anyone in PDF format. So it cannot be changed. And so I just wanted to point that out. It's not a choice of mine, it's how it goes. But I gotten a few messages on that. So I'm really sorry if there's some data quality issues changing it into an image, but we do it a lot. So perhaps there's something we can work on together, because it should be pretty clear, should be pretty crisp.
Okay, folks. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you for joining us today at Santa Clara County Association of Realtors. We appreciate you allowing us to come in and just answer all the questions that are available out there. Remember that we're going to get together once again on the last Tuesday of the month, Tuesday at 2. That's Halloween, 2:00. Check the banner on the Pro homepage. You'll see a big registration capability there. Thanks to Alicia for keeping the chat room up to date, and she's got lots of links and things like that in there for you. And David, Michelle, Fernando, another good time with the folks at SCORE.
Thanks,
everybody. Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody. Nice to see you.
Michelle.